Building approvals rise. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Still working through my stein of coffee, and I thought we'd have a look at this latest data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics regarding building approvals. Now, if I bring up this chart here, you can see they've gone up. Private sector housing approvals have gone up in April, and this is before the announcement of the government of the stimulus for the housing sector. Dwelling units, seasonally adjusted, they're a bit down, but trend, they're up, where houses are up for both. So let's have a look at the media release from the ABS. The number of dwelling approvals rose 1% in April in trend terms, according to data released by the ABS today. The rise in April was driven by both private sector dwellings, excluding houses, 1%, and private sector houses, 0.8%, said Daniel Rossi, Director of Construction Statistics at the ABS. These results are consistent with leading indicators in early 2020, prior to the onset of the pandemic restrictions. Building approvals typically lag early indicators of housing demand, such as new home sales and new loan commitments. Across the states and territories, dwelling approvals rose in the ACT by 13.2%, the Northern Territory by 10%, Tasmania by 4.2%, Western Australia by 2.3%, and New South Wales by 2% in trend terms. Falls were recorded in Victoria by 0.7%, South Australia by 0.6%, and Queensland was flat. Approvals for private sector houses increased in New South Wales by 2.2%, Western Australia by 0.8%, Victoria by 0.7%. Declines were recorded in South Australia by 2.5%, Queensland by 0.5% in trend terms. Seasonally adjusted estimates for total dwelling approvals fell 1.8% in April, driven by an 8.9% decrease in approvals for private dwellings excluding houses. Private sector houses rose 2.7%. The value of total building approved fell 0.6% in April in trend terms and has fallen for 2 months. The value of residential building rose 1.3%, while non-residential building declined a further 3.1%. So let's have a look at some of these key figures here. So, what do we have? We've got total dwelling units approved in April was 15,400. So from March to April, that's an increase of 1%. So from April 2019 to April 2020, that's an increase of 3.9%. And of that, you've got private sector houses from April 2019 to 2020 are up 1.9%. Private sector dwellings excluding houses is up 6.6% over the year. And then seasonally adjusted, the total dwelling units approved is down 1.8% from March to April, but up 5.7% from April 2019 to April 2020. We can see here the graphs showing how it's trending up. And we'll have to see how this plays out, particularly with the $25,000 stimulus that they're putting, how much activity will go. Because, as they said, there is a lag in this sector. There's definitely a lag in it. And let's jump over. Let's have a look at state trends now. We'll look at the state trends to see how each of the states are going. So, New South Wales. The trend estimate for the total number of dwellings units approved rose 2%, and it was up 2.2% in April. Victoria fell 0.7% in April. Private sector houses rose 0.7%. And Queensland, you can see here, have a look there. We're over 4,000 now. We're just about 2%. Victoria's remained pretty steady since 2014. Bit of fluctuations there, the little jump there. New South Wales as well as down overall. South Australia, 1,000. Private sector houses are at 500. So it's remained pretty steady. Well, Western Australia, look at that decline. That's definitely a big decline in that sector there over the period, since 2014. So we can just get an overview. And how is this being reported, guys? How is this being reported in the media? Let's jump and have a look at this article from Mortgage Business. And we'll see approvals rise, but it's not expected to last. New dwelling approval figures are positive, but lag behind the true pandemic impact, according to senior economists. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, building approvals rose by 7.3% in the 3 months to April 2020 when compared with the previous 3 months. a relatively positive result despite the outbreak of the pandemic. However, due to the lengthy process of obtaining new construction approvals, economists anticipate that the true impact of the pandemic on new construction in Australia won't be seen for many months. And, well, we'll have to see, guys. We will have to see. The Housing Industry Association's chief economist stated that the most recent ABS data on building approvals relates to projected lodged with local councils before the impact of the pandemic. Due to the lag between project development and design, submitting an application for a building approval and obtaining an approval, the majority of these projects would have been envisaged at the start of the year, or in 2019, when the housing market was gaining momentum, Mr. Riddon said. We did not expect building approvals data to reflect the post-pandemic impact until August. So there you go. They're not, we'll have September with all of the economic life support being pulled away, with JobKeeper apparently being pulled away. We'll have to see. Job seeker bonus disappearing, and the banks also removing all their holidays. Do you think they'll pull all that as well? Do you think they'll pull all of that at the same time? And then we'll see the impact of building approvals. So we'll also see if Home Builder will have an impact on this. And there's some critics saying that there's just not enough time in their program to allow people to jump on board. I think there are ways you can manage that risk. Shane Oliver, chief economist and head of investment and strategy at A&P Capital, shared a similar sentiment and stated that government stimulus should restart the industry later in the year. Building approvals fell by 1.8% in April, much better than the 10.7% fall expected. This likely reflects lags in processing approvals, such that the negative impact of the pandemic shutdown on approvals is yet to show up, but will in months ahead. Residential construction is expected to keep declining through 2020, but the decline looks like it will be softened by government programs, including a new home building grant targeted to support new construction. According to the data, detached house approvals were 1.5% higher in the 3 months to April 2020 than those approved in the previous quarter, and 0.3% higher than the same period in 2019. Meanwhile, multi-unit approvals increased by 16% in quarter ending 2020 when compared with the previous quarter, and 1.5% higher than the same time last year. That's interesting. Maybe there's some confidence returning, or people are preparing. Even if you have an approval, you don't need to jump on it right away, particularly for a development. You could wait a couple of years. Or even that, selling a property with an approval adds value to it. All states recorded a monthly increase in approvals, with the exception of New South Wales, which declined by 29.9% during April, driven by a fall in multi-unit approvals, Mr. Riddon added. In seasonally adjusted terms, building approvals for the 3 months to April quarter increased in Tasmania, up 18.4%, New South Wales up 10%, Western Australia up 10%, and Victoria up 9.3%. Meanwhile, approvals declined in Queensland to be down 1.4% quarter on quarter, and South Australia down 2.5%, also in seasonally adjusted terms. So new home building to weigh on GDP. Mr. Riddon noted that the construction industry directly engaged over 1 million employees in 18-19 and contributed 5.8% to GDP. And let's compare that to another industry, and this is the tourism industry here in Australia. So construction, you could see, is bigger than tourism. It's employing more people than tourism. And this is why, for all the issues, the government always turns to construction, because it's an easy way to distribute. New home building activity will weigh further on Australia's GDP growth in the second half of 2020, he said. Following Wednesday's negative GDP result for the March quarter and the expected negative result for the June quarter, the economy is in urgent need of measures to kickstart a post-pandemic recovery. The persistent decline in residential building activity has detracted from GDP for the last 6 quarters and is already 14% down from its peak. This contraction was prior to the pandemic restrictions impacted home building. Yeah, honestly, the construction industry has been in recession, guys. I'd argue, for a while. Particularly home building, apartment building, definitely. Mr. Riddon stated that a sharper contraction in residential building activity is imminent. The longer lead times for residential building mean that the full impact of the pandemic crisis on residential building won't hit GDP until later the year. Without appropriate support, up to 500,000 jobs could be at risk, as the number of homes Australians will build next year is expected to be around half of the number of homes we built last year, he's warned. He stated that the impact of halting overseas migration, the absence of international student arrivals, and an uncertain domestic economy will all likely see the housing market continue to contract throughout 2020 and 2021. This shock will reverberate through the residential building industry, up and down the supply chain. Employment in the sector is not expected to recover within the next 2 years. The sector engages over 1 million people, and we expect to build half as many homes next year. Yeah, they're going to require half as many hours worked on building sites. So there we have it, an interesting take on this data from the Mortgage Business News website, and it just shows you the potential impact this could have on the economy. Are you in the construction game, everyone? Have you noticed, has it picked up? Are inquiries increasing? Are people planning to take advantage of the home grant? Or is it still going to slow down? Is that also affecting, we discussed earlier today, other predictions of grim economic forecasts for Australia's recession because of declined capex expenditure? If you're concerned, if you're in construction, I would be surprised if you're running out now to invest in capital, to invest in new equipment, to invest in new things to help your business grow with all the uncertainty surrounding what's going on. As always, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you want to support the content, there are a few ways you can. You can simply comment and like the videos and share the content. Help the channel grow. You can support us by joining the channel on YouTube or Patreon. Use our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. Use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint. Buy our merch from HeiseSays, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.